Welcome back to Tax Talk with Hey Hey, where we offer simplified tax planning and mentorship to help 6 and 7-figure CEOs ditch the daily hustle by achieving financial independence from your business by increasing your purchasing power and diversifying your source of passive income. Through financial mentorship, realistic goal setting, and simplified tax planning, without having to hustle for the rest of your life, with the guarantee of the optimal roadmap to move you towards your desired time freedom. Let's jump into today's episode. Welcome back. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about incorporating. So that's one of the subjects that is always discussed, and people call us every day to ask about incorporating. So ladies, what is one of the questions that they always ask or that people tend to ask when they call in?
There's a lot of misinformation, I think. And when they're thinking about, I have a little side hustle and now it's becoming more of a business, should I incorporate? Mm-hmm. That is like the first thing people always do, or they do. Some people go out there and right away they create a LLC or a corporation. And it's like, why? So I think one of the main things, that a lot of clients ask is, well, what is, first of all, an incorporation?
Right. So just know you do not need a corporation to start doing business. So I know that with the pandemic, many people started selling, T-shirts or baking goods or, different things. And so a lot of the commercials out there that you listen to say LegalZoom, set up your corporation and all that good stuff. Know that you don't have to have a corporation to begin doing business. There's something out there called the fictitious business name. So doing business as, ABC, whatever. So you can literally do business with a business license and a DBA, fictitious business name, that you register with your county or something like that. And that allows you to open like a business account. That allows you to, create some sort of a logo that you start handing out business cards like with this name, right? Mm-hmm. So it's your name. And that would be like Suhei doing business as ABC Bakery or whatever. Mm-hmm. That allows me to start doing business. Why people incorporate is there's two sides to incorporation. There's a tax side and there's a legal side. So for the tax side, you really need a corporation probably till you make over $50,000, I say. I mean, the tax benefits don't really kick in right away with a corporation. Yet California is asking for the $800 fee and all this other stuff, right? So we want to make sure people understand you do not need a corporation to begin doing business. Now, if you have a risky business, for example, I don't know, something that there's a huge liability or you have assets to protect, well, then contact an attorney to help you set up the corporation to protect those assets. But don't do it just because you're starting a business or because you heard it's great for taxes.
Yes.
We need to figure out where you're at in that business and at what point is a good point to start that business. Okay. What other questions, Brace?
I've just recently got one, and he came, and he's like, I have everything for the business. I already have income coming in. I, have my expenses. I'm actually making a profit. So I'm ready to make an LLC. And so he wanted to know more about that. How do I start it? So he wanted to right away come in and start it. So I kind of wanted you to tell everybody of that process of.
So what we do is we look at the income, the type of business, the income, and the expenses. So when I said you typically want to start a business to start taking advantage of the tax side of it, when you're not just making $50,000, when you're actually profiting around $50,000, mm-hmm. In order for it to really justify, remember with the corporation, fees and expenses kick in as well. So not only does the state of California want $800 from you annually, whether you make a penny in business or not, they just want $800 from you. Once you exceed around $50,000 of net profit, they actually want 1.5% of your proceed, of your profit, of your net profit. So that $800 actually increases.
Yep.
So when a client comes in and they're saying, hey, I have a business and this is all I have, that's the first thing I evaluate is what is the net profit? Does a corporation really make sense at this point? Sometimes I'll tell them, look, you're really close. So how about you continue to run your business and reach back out, mid-June, September. The corporation doesn't need to start in January of that year. It could start at any time during the year. Just know that when it does start, it's born and that's when you begin using it, right? LLCs are really big.
Yes.
But there's a lot of sides to an LLC. And so what's one of the biggest mistakes they do with an LLC?
They started too soon. I mean,
the form that you always have to argue with the IRS about.
Oh, yeah. The S Corp one.
Yeah. So a lot of
25534.
the 25534. So a lot of the times clients come in and they're like, I set up an LLC. And I'm like, great. So how are you going to tax this LLC? Well, I don't know. Did you file this form? Did you do this? And so what happens is when you set yourself up through something like LegalZoom or anything like that is, and it's not just LegalZoom because it could be other types, but when there's no thought process behind it, what happens is you never selected the proper entity that would help support you and your business. And so all of a sudden you're walking around with this LLC that you never designated how it needs to be taxed. And so when you come in with us, since you never made a designation, the IRS is going to select a sole proprietor, meaning why did you even set this up, And so we want to make sure clients reach out or clients really look into how is this LLC going to be taxed? And it's designated since day one. It's the proper designation for you and your business.
Yeah, and even the way it's set up, like is it member managed or manager managed? And most people don't know how to answer that, or they just assume. But those two things make a huge difference on how the business or the corporation is actually set up. So it's always important to, get real guidance, an attorney and a tax professional to let you know what kind of business or entity best benefits you. And that's one question we always get to, like, what's the difference? What entity should I be? S corporation, a corporation, or an LLC. And like you said, LLC is the most popular one. But can you tell us a little bit of difference about, what's the difference between all three of them?
So a corporation there's two types of incorporating. There's a corporation and there's the limited liability, the LLC. And they both, you can change the designations of how you want them to be taxed. So a lot of people say, well, I heard S corporations are great and I want an S corporation. So we look and make sure that that's going to fit you and your business. Yep. Once it does, and we're like, okay, you should be an LLC, there's proper forms. That's where the form 2553 comes into play, right? And so we tell the corporation, we want to be taxed as an S Corp. We tell the LLC we want to be taxed as an S Corp. But they have different rules. So now that you've changed the designation, now you have to follow the S Corporation rules, which right now the biggest one is payroll. Payroll is one of the biggest things that is coming up with S Corps because the IRS wants owners to pay themselves a reasonable compensation through salary, through payroll, so that they pay the Social Security and Medicare taxes on those on that salary. And so that's when we have clients reach out and say, I have a corporation. Can you help me with the payroll? So I get them over to Brisa to help them set up the payroll, but then, well, how much do I pay myself?
Yep.
How do we know how much to pay ourselves? So what did we do? We went and we acquired the software where it gives you industry standards for your business. So we have to figure out what kind of business are you running? What's your expected growth or income? And so all those calculations go into the software that will allow us to come up with a salary that will meet
compensation.
Will meet the reasonable compensation.
Yeah.
So it's not as easy as just setting it up. What I tell clients is you're walking around with this beautiful hammer, but no one taught you how to use it. So it's an amazing tool, But at the end of the day, you need guidance more than anything else. Because when we set it up through an online service that's, it's a drop-down menu, it doesn't know what to ask you that's specific to you and your industry, because you're just selecting from a drop-down and you're selecting from a drop-down. But at the end of the day, no real personal questions were asked. Yep. And sometimes we end up with a corporation that is not serving us, and instead it's costing us in fees.
Yeah. And other mistakes that I've noticed when they do LLCs outside of here is the yearly, not just the yearly tax fee, but also yearly fees for California or for their own corporation or, business, which is, every year there is that statement of info. Yeah. Just little things like that they could go into, like suspension.
Yes.
It looks bad. It's hard to get it out of there because you forgot to pay a $25 fee. Like
it's just being compliant. There is to the corporation, like Sui said, it's just they give you a book, but there's things you got to do to maintain it and stay compliant throughout the year. So this is where the guidance comes in of someone that knows these things and can help you with that, guide you. And there's deadlines, there's due dates of certain things. So it's very important. And if you miss it, there's fees incurred and then they increase. So it's always very important to have a team behind you that knows and helps you and can guide you on keeping the corporation and teach you how to use the hammer.
So at the end of the day, the message is a lot of the times clients try to save money by doing it themselves.
Yes.
And we end up finding out that it costs you way more because of the mistakes that were made, because you did not know what you just don't know.
Yeah.
Plus time of fighting with the IRS to get things reset, things get filed. And that $25 fee that she mentions, I've seen it go to $250 and quickly to $800 penalties, plus suspending the corporation because you missed a deadline.
Yep.
So if that's you or you know somebody that needs some guidance like that, please have them reach out to us.
And that wraps up today's episode. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you give us a follow on Instagram at prominence.services. And our website is prominencebusiness.com.
See you on the next one. So if your mindset is ready to excel to the next level and you want to give up the multiple hats to a business who will support you, then schedule a call with us today. We can be reached at 626-825-8249. Please give us a review and share us with your friends and family.